Your eulogy. He was a young, he was a young, spirited person in his childhood days. And he was abandoned on the playground. He only played with other kids, but the first love he'd ever know, the first home and the joys of home he would ever truly take in, abandoned him on the playground. What do I do when my mother loses her lover? And while I am playing, I am unattended. She drowns in her sorrows. Her lover, paralyzed from the waist down. When doves cry, maybe I'm just like my mother. She's never satisfied. Maybe I'm just like my father. Too bold, overtly demanding. All I know, he didn't have the joy of father running behind him, pushing him on the swings. All I know is that his mother didn't diligently watch him, as all mothers do, telling him, hey, stop that running that fast. Be careful. Laughing and smiling as he laughed and smiled. No, he was abandoned on the playground. And after a while, he played with the kids. And chase was his favorite game. But he realized he had all these others around him that would get tired of chasing him. So he figured out a way, while on that playground, to make them endlessly play the game of chase. Tag, you're it. He became the fastest runner. Tag, you're it. He became the strongest climber. Tag, you're it. He became one of the chosen teammates. And on he did this. And on he did this. But eventually all left the playground. Years later, he would be on that playground, a grown man, playing. Sometimes another grown-up would come just to relax. He'd play, but eventually they'd realize he had nowhere to go and they had no place for him, that he needed to leave the playground. And when they would beg, chase, and plead, love me enough to love yourself, to leave this playground, please. He thought it was fun, 'cause mommy didn't care and daddy was nowhere. So he played with them, made them neglect their home, their life, made them sleep in the elements of the cold, harsh winds and withdrawn emotions, and the deep, rough seas, drowning in the abyss underneath the swings. And he just let them sit in that puddle, wet on rainy days, overly hot on summery days, too windy and chilled chafe on fall days, drowning in spring rains. He kept playing, and they grew up. They drove off. They called for an Uber. They took a cab. They met a new friend who wasn't coming to play at the playground, but coming to sit and enjoy the watching of the scenes while their own children played. So he was left alone on that playground while all the other adults went off as though it was just a nice moment back to life. They went, and he played, and he played, and then one day he met a woman. She came, and she played. She ran with her children. She rolled in the grass. She laughed at the sun. She played chase, tag, you're it. She played Man from Mars. May we take a trip to the stars. She played spaceship. She played rocket. She was a grown woman. She had fun. She let her hair down. But every now and then she would get up and go. And she would tell him, maybe you should come with me. Come with me. And he actually did. And he found there was more than just a playground. She fed him, nurtured him, cooked and cleaned for him. She loved on his mind, his body, his soul, the way adults should love on mind, bodies, and soul. It was a synchronized dance. Pleasure. And then, when she became unfamiliar, but familiar to him, tapping on the chords of his heartstrings, he'd get up and run to the playground in hopes that she would constantly get in her car, gas up her vehicle, throw in her priorities, and take them out into the middle of the environment of a man-made playground, a society, a social environment for social interaction for children. And she did at first, thinking it was just, a getaway to remember good old times. But she remembered, I met him here. He stays here in this playground, on this playground, and he thinks this is a viable condition for love to grow, for family to grow, for the full shebang. He thinks this is how his mother and father and children and priorities and responsibilities, this is where they should be. But not so. He thinks that when the other kids come, he can play with them too. Maybe even trade off you. I can go to that cute girl and say, tag, you're it. And we all have to run from her. But I am a grown woman. This is child's play. She got up in her vehicle, shook her head no, called her own priorities back into her own vehicle, and left him on that playground. To the bag of bones that you found on the playground, dead and deceased. Now he turned the grounds of enjoyment, his own memories, into a funeral parlor, into a funeral home. Because that last one left him truly alone. The alone you feel not when someone leaves you for another playmate, but for themselves. Such a sad story of how he died. A grown man on a swing, swinging low. He turned the playground into a criminal zone, a no-go. Kids don't want to play where there's dead bodies.